time for Pythagorean Theorem. So this is a super fun concept in math. I know you think it's not going to be fun, but it really will be fun, and it's really very easy. And it's pretty fascinating because Pythagoras is the guy who came up with this, like in the Greek times, ancient Greek times. So you ought to YouTube him or whatever and learn a little bit about what he did. He did all that before calculators, before computers, and before all that stuff, and we're still using it today. What he basically did, let me just give you an overview, you don't have to write this down, is he figured out that when you're looking at a right triangle, remember what a right triangle is, that if you want to know the length of the sides, that the side opposite of this right angle, which we call the hypotenuse, is always the sum of these two sides squared. So when you square each of those sides and add them together, it will equal to the length of this side squared. Okay, so that's what he came up with all by his little lonesome, and we're still using it today. Now, for those of you preparing for the high set exam, or the GED exam, that's same thing, but I'm particularly focusing on high set. I just want you to notice that on your formula sheet that you'll be given on the test, there is no formula for Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, I told you it wasn't the greatest formula sheet at the beginning. So this is one that you need to just commit to memory, and it's a super easy formula to do that with. So let's get started. Go ahead and grab your note cards and write some stuff down. Got to write some stuff down so you can remember it later. So Pythagorean Theorem. Draw you a nice big right triangle. And let me show you how to draw that, okay? So look. And then connect the sides. So don't spend a long time trying to draw this most gorgeous triangle. Just draw it and let's go. Put your little mark for the right angle. Remember what this mark means, 90 degrees. Got to know that. Go ahead and put your pencil on the corner of that little box and draw an arrow directly across, like that. So remember how we talked about finding that opposite side to an angle. So this is the opposite side, and this is called the hypotenuse. 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 So say that with me. Hypotenuse. Got to be able to pronounce the words. I know you don't think you need to, but if you skip over it because you really don't know how to say it, then whenever you see the word, you're not going to remember what it means. It's very hard to remember the meaning to a word you can't even pronounce. Hypotenuse and Pythagorean Theorem is how we pronounce this. All right, so let's make some notes about the hypotenuse. It is always the side opposite the right angle. And when we're talking about Pythagorean Theorem, we're only talking about triangles that are right triangles. No other types. No isosceles, scalene, equilateral. Well, I mean, they can actually overlap. But it could never be an equilateral triangle because all the angles in an equilateral triangle are 60 degrees. But so just make sure when we're talking about Pythagorean, you've got a right triangle. So the hypotenuse is always the side opposite of the right angle. It is always the longest side of the triangle. Now notice we're talking about sides of the triangle, not the inner angles. That a lot of my students get a little bit turned around because we went from talking about the inside measurements, those little degree things. Now we're talking about the length of the sides. It's always the longest side of the triangle. It is always labeled C. Always. I can't stress this enough. Always labeled C. Okay? Now, the other two sides are called the legs. So this is, I'm just going to call them A and B. So A and B are the legs of the triangle. And it doesn't matter how you label that. Like I labeled this A and this B, but you could call this B and this A. That doesn't matter. What matters is you get the hypotenuse identified and you have it labeled as C, no matter how your triangle is turned. Remember in your geometry stuff, they put your pictures all kinds of different ways. So you've got to really look and see what you're looking at and get your point of reference so that you know what you're doing. Okay, now our formula that we need to know. For high set takers, you just got to know it. On your GED test, your formula sheet has it on there, which is great. It's really a nice formula sheet. So here it is. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, where C is the hypotenuse, the longest side of your triangle, and it's always labeled C. Now in the next few videos, we're going to get started working some problems, solving for A, solving for B, and solving for C. So get your pencil and your paper and a calculator, and let's get started.